I don't care what anyone says. Sometimes being quick is good.
Get that stuff out of here. It's Southwest Bias.
Welcome into a Tuesday edition of Southwest Bias, live from Studio K, brought to you by our friends at Circle K. Become an Inner Circle member today by downloading the Circle K app. And yeah, being quick isn't always a bad thing. The Phoenix Suns have gone from a team that had what many people thought a decade-long slump coming for them. They thought that there was no young talent. They thought that this team was up S Creek without a paddle. But I don't think they are. And I think in part it's because of this mindset that Matt Ishbia shared at his press conference.
There's a lot of things that you learn along the way and you make changes. The biggest thing that I'm able to do, and you'll learn about me, and I think you're probably seeing it and people can criticize for it, is when I make a mistake or things don't go well, I change fast and we make quick moves. And I'm not afraid to do that. And the mortgage business included. We tried that didn't work, pivot, right? And we will do that. And some people say, oh, be more patient, let it go. Like, patience isn't gonna be my strongest suit, okay?
And I'm glad patience isn't gonna be your strongest suit, because the Phoenix Suns had to.
I have exorcised the demons.
Yeah, they had to exorcise the demons of the last few years. I mean, this team was not good. This team had no heart and no hustle, like we've talked about. And with this roster coming close to completion, I think that it is fair to say that this team's going to be better than the last few years. And I think that's because of addition by subtraction. I know it doesn't make sense, but new math doesn't, all right? Sometimes when you remove something, it can change the entire equation. And that's not to say that Kevin Durant was a bad player. He wasn't. He's one of the all-time greats. And it's not to say that Bradley Beal was a bad person. He isn't, but it didn't work. And I don't think he'll be here next year. And when you look at that, I think it completely changes the dynamic of what this roster is. And if you go down this roster and you compare things, it's tough to say that this group is not going to be better, at least in terms of intangibles and the way things are approached, and I think in the win column, than last year's team. You go from Yusuf Nurkic and Mason Plumlee to Mark Williams and Kaman Malawach, and maybe Nick Richards is your third center if they decide not to trade him. You go from Tyus Jones to Jalen Green. Don't tell me that's not an upgrade. It is an extreme upgrade on multiple levels, including athleticism, ability to score, and youth. You look at Oso and Dunn versus Malawach, Fleming, Bray, and Oso and Dunn when you add them in, and all of a sudden that youth problem you were talking about, that where things looked abysmal last year, where you didn't have draft picks and you didn't have the ability to add youth, that's gone. I think you're better there. Last year you had the myth of Mike Budenholzer and that championship that he won, and that he was that guy that he was in Atlanta and part of his time in Milwaukee. Now you've got the promise of a young coach in Jordan Ott who's about player development and has some fresh ideas, and I did it again. I knocked that over.
You got to stop.
I got to stop.
We just got to move it.
Or I got to stop being Italian.
Well, you know what you should do?
Arms.
That should go to the left side because you only just stated that.
I could go this way, but I'm afraid I'm going to hit the football. Anyways, you've got the myth of Mike Budenholzer last year and the promise of Jordan Ott, a young guy that's going to look at things and bring a different perspective, a fresh perspective, a guy that is about helping grow the young guys on this team and getting a team better. A guy that I feel like is in alignment with Devin Booker a little bit more than we saw with Mike Budenholzer. And that's not even talking about the behind-the-scenes stuff that there were rumors of. You got the hope of Bull being replaced by the defensive prowess of Dylan Brooks and the reality of what he brings to the table. You've got no heart, no hustle, or joy versus hope and excitement. And then you've got relying on Bradley Beal versus not having to. I get that Kevin Durant's no longer here. I get that this roster isn't as top-heavy as it was. And some would argue, it doesn't have as much high-end talent. I don't care. This Suns team will not finish 10 games under 500. This Suns team will not bore you to death. This Suns team in 2025-26 is better than last year's team. They are significantly better than last year's team, and they've exercised those demons in a short order. This team has promise. This team has hope. And this team has us excited for the first time in a while about the Phoenix Suns. And guess what? If it doesn't work out, Matt Ishbia will.
Is when I make a mistake or things don't go well, I change fast.
But maybe that's just my Southwest bias. Good morning to the mustache behind the Mac, Shane Diefenbach. Shane, how are you, my friend?
I'm fantastic, and the sun is covered by dust today, so we will not be seeing him. Air quality is over 500.
Yeah, I mean, who would have thought that you could get to air quality over 500?
It's wild.
I mean, look at that.
Yeah, it's a lot of dust in the air right now, a lot of pollutants. So yeah, no sun today.
It'll come back.
It will come back.
You should have just had dust come over the sun, but that would take more than 30 minutes of planning on this program. How are you feeling about this Suns roster? Because let's be honest, it's essentially done. There may be a few other moves, but how are you feeling about it right now?
Yeah.
Am I insane to say that they're better than last year?
No, I think that the overall makeup of the roster, it's going to be hard to not be better than last year, in my opinion. Like, last year was such an objectively disastrous build that I think you can really only go up because this team is not trying to rip it down into the studs and start over. I will say the point guard thing just bothers me still. You have Colin Gillespie.
Yeah, I imagine if they buy out
Beal.
Bradley Beal, that there is somebody that they want to go after. I don't think it's Chris Paul. The more I hear, the more I talk. I don't think it's Chris Paul. I have a feeling he goes back to the Clippers. I may be wrong on that, but just reading the tea leaves and some of the conversations I've had with people, I just don't think it's Chris Paul. That's where I stand right now.
Yeah, I think I don't think there's a way to make me feel optimistic about playoffs this year unless you're able to move Beal. Like, if you have to wave and stretch him.
I still think that's you get the mid-level,
Yeah.
You get out of the tax apron, so I don't see why that would be the worst thing.
Yeah, but then all you're going to get is another guy who you can bring in for a Tyus Jones level deal, and we know how that worked out.
Well, that was vet minimum.
Okay.
You're going to have a little bit more than that.
Yeah.
And honestly, I don't blame Tyus Jones. I blame how big of a mess that situation was and how I think there was – I don't think getting a point guard was what that team really needed last year because you had three ball dominant guys. So I don't. Valley Boy says Russell Westbrook. I haven't heard anything about Russell Westbrook, and I don't know if it changes. It fits the locker room dynamic that they're going for, because this locker room is a huge part of what they overhauled. You were talking the Bradley Beal buyout. I mean, we saw today that, we've seen two buyouts that I don't think anybody expected in DeAndre Ayton, but then Dame, who had similar money to Brad Beal left on the books, and they waived and stretched him today, which shocks me in a lot of ways. But I guess with him out injured and needing to do something to keep Giannis happy. But that to me says this Bradley Beal buyout doesn't sound as insane as it may look on paper.
I don't think it was ever that crazy with how many with a little amount. Like, it's not Paul George where you have 3 years to pay out a supermax. Like, it's a lot of money, but I don't think it was ever crazy to me because it was the only option you're going to have realistically. Like, there's so many people saying, "Oh, this team would take Beal."
Nobody's trading for Bradley Beal. Again, I'll extend it. I will chug a bottle of Tabasco sauce on this program if somebody trades for Bradley Beal. Right? That's how much I do not think it's going to happen. Yeah. At this point, Milwaukee was one that people thought maybe they'd get desperate. That's gone. That's not happening with what they did today. I just don't see the Bulls thinking that that's some answer to the mess that they're in. Like Eric says, Beal for LeBron. Okay, like if we're gonna play in fantasy world, there's a lot of different things we could say. I don't see that as something that's gonna happen. So I don't believe it from my discussions, and that's not crapping on my boy Flex. That's not saying anything about anybody else. I just am basing it off of people I've discussed things with. I don't see a Bradley Beal trade. I don't see a clear path to it. All right. So I don't think Bradley Beal will be here. I just don't see Bradley Beal getting traded. I just don't. And for those of you that, talk about ownership and, oh, well, I don't like Matt Ishbia. Well, go look what the Pacers just let happen. Miles Turner walks after making it to the finals because of money. It's not going to happen here in Phoenix. Like that's one of the big things that I think is beneficial about this. It's moving on quick, which he did, and willingness to spend when it's necessary. So I think he's going to do it when it comes to the Bradley Beal deal as well. Shane, there's a lot that happened in Arizona sports yesterday. And so I think we're going to go scrolling after the break because there was a lot I saw on the internet last night that we need to discuss coming up after this on Southwest Bias. We may be in Studio K, but that's not why I want to talk about Circle K. It's because I love it. I'm not lying. Like, I will go out of my way in the morning to stop there to get my morning refreshment, usually a Coke Zero because I have a problem. But, I love going there, and I'll get the Polar Pop sometimes. Sometimes they've got great deals on balls of soda, all because I'm a member of the Inner Circle. And it's not just, drinks and food that you're going to get great discounts on. It's gas. 25 cents off your first 5 fill-ups when you sign up to become an Inner Circle member, then 3 cents off per gallon. And then you hit the Espo level, it's 5 cents off. I tell you about it. If you haven't done it yet, that's on you. And they've got some great deals coming up this month. Dollar cookies. So if you are, me love cookie. If you want to get in on the cookies, $1 each. Oh, great deal on cookie. Me become Inner Circle member. 79 cents Polar Pops, 99 cents Frosters. There's all sorts of deals. So join the Inner Circle today by downloading the Circle K app. Terms and conditions apply at participating locations. Visit CircleK.com for details. And Mountain America Credit Union. I mean, I've told you, I have loved what they provide, right? I've been looking at this. I've been thinking about my financial institutions, and then Mountain America came around and said, look, we got 1 million members. We got over 100 branches in the West. We're going to be where you need to be. Plus, you're going to get 2 times the points on the rewards credit card purchases through July 31st. And who doesn't love points that you can then use for other deals? Right? You're going to get double points on what you're spending, and then you can use it on different things like, gift cards, travel rebates, event tickets. Who doesn't need all those things, right? And if you're going to spend the money anyways, you might as well make that money stretch a little bit further for you. And I recommend it with our friends at Mountain America, a limited time only, and take advantage of it while you can. You visit macu.com/double. Loans on approved credit. Offer can change or be withdrawn at any time. Limited time offer. Terms and conditions apply. And Shane, I talked about it before the break. A lot happened over the afternoon yesterday since the last time we talked to you. The biggest one in terms of Arizona sports was the signing of Nigel Hayes Davis, the 30-year-old who played at Wisconsin, a 6'8", power forward who played in EuroLeague last year, won the finals and the finals MVP there, holds the EuroLeague record of 50 points in a game, shot better than 40% from deep in EuroLeague. Yes, that three-point line is in further than it is in the NBA, so take that into consideration. But this guy profiles as a 3-and-D guy, and some excitement when it comes to him. Played at Wisconsin, was on those Final Four teams, or on that Final Four team. Played with our guy Frank Kaminsky. So you know what I did? You know I had to. I texted Frank and I said, Frank, what can you tell me about him? And he said, you know what? He's worked himself into a really, really good player. The knock on him coming out of college was he couldn't shoot, and he's been one of the better shooters in Europe for the last few years. Has a high motor and is very smart. He'll work his way into a role with the team and takes any challenge you give to him. That sounds like the blueprint of a guy that Brian Gregory wants on this roster. A guy that's going to help change the mindset, and a guy that's going to do whatever he can to carve out a role. A guy that's going to do everything in practice to bust his ass, right? He's going to go out there and he's going to try to make himself and everybody around him better. And when I started digging into it and I talked to Frank a little bit, it reminded me of 2012, if we can go back a little bit, right? There was a guy that Lance Blanks and Lon Babby, probably the only really good move they made. They signed this guy named PJ Tucker, who had played in Europe, had won an MVP in the Israeli League, won a title in Germany, and won Finals MVP there. He had floated around the NBA for a little while, just like Hayes Davis did before going over to Europe. And then he comes in, PJ, and nobody has any clue who he is. Nobody expects anything. Everybody's like, oh, great, you signed a 15th guy on the bench. Or actually, I think it was a 12th man back then. I don't think they went 15 deep back in 2012. And the introductory press conference was literally in a conference room in the upstairs of the arena. And I think only one reporter and a bunch of internal people went to it. And you could barely fit in the room. It was a smaller room than I'm sitting in now. And nobody had any clue who PJ was. And we know what PJ became. A heart and hustle guy who could hit threes and play good defense. I think that could be the kind of role that Hayes Davis cuts out for himself. I don't know if he'll get big minutes, but we didn't think PJ Tucker would either. And then he became a fan favorite. He became a coach's favorite because he did everything he could. Like Frank said about Hayes Davis, he took on any challenge that you gave him. And I think that you could wind up finding somebody in Hayes Davis that was a great flyer. This is about changing the locker room culture. This is about changing the attitude. This is about bringing in guys that make things a little different. But that's not all I loved. I was doing my research, and this video came up of Hayes Davis at Wisconsin.
Okay. Gosh, she's beautiful. Did you hear that? All right, so we'll open it up to questions.
Who hasn't made an ass of themselves before? That was such a human moment. Frank almost does a spit take sitting next to him. Nigel Hayes Davis is completely embarrassed. I asked Frank. No, that was not his future wife, Ashley Brewer, who was the reporter. But I thought that was very funny. And Shane, do we have the picture as well from college with Hayes Davis just holding up the side out there saying, broke college athlete, anything helps at his Venmo. This was pre-NIL, right? So you gotta love what he did. And then he also tweeted, the Big 12 made nearly $450 million. My scholarship's about $160,000. If only there was enough money to pay us. He was outspoken. I enjoy that as well. You gotta appreciate a guy. A couple other things with him too. He was on the U.S. select team, so it's not like this guy was a slouch. There's talent there. So I like what I see. And maybe I'm just being overly optimistic, but I think for being able to only sign veteran minimum guys instead of going the retread route with guys who hardly have any miles left on them, I like going with a guy that has something to prove, and that's going to work really hard to make it back in the NBA. By the way, if you're in the chat like CB, Girth Jr., Ted Offensive, Sean, that review guy, hit that like button. If you're not subscribed, subscribe now. We need those likes because otherwise the GM here is gonna fire me from the show. He doesn't like me very much. If you don't know who the GM is, it's me. So I like the signing. Shane, you are college basketball hoops ed. What did you make of his time at Wisconsin, and what do you think about the signing?
I loved Nigel Hayes when he was at Wisconsin. He was such a fun player to watch. He was a typical college basketball just hooper. But he was always one of those guys where you're like, his game's not going to translate. You just kind of saw it, and whether it be him not being able to create his own shot, him not being able to shoot very well, or whatever it was, I just never really saw it translating. That being said, a lot of people, when that happens, they go play overseas for a bit, and then they, go start sell insurance. This guy didn't do that.
No.
He tried it out in the league. I think he was on 3 teams in 1 year. And then he went overseas and dominated there, but didn't just dominate and wasn't just content in dominating. He continued to progress. And yeah, this is a low risk, medium reward situation for me. Like, he could be a rotation guy. I don't see him being an integral part of this team, but
no,
things have surprised me before.
Look, I say PJ Tucker. He could be Sonny Weems too. I don't know. He could be a guy that.
Shout out Sonny Weems.
Well, look, I love Sonny Weems. He was one of my favorites when I was working there. But I mean, there is a spectrum that could go. But I like what I'm seeing there. That review guy says thumbs up for Cookie Monster. I appreciate you there, that review guy. So thank you. We got to talk about something else, and I'm not going to mention this guy's name. I'm not going to give this guy publicity for at least name recognition for doing something stupid on multiple occasions. But the Diamondbacks game last night, a fan wound up interfering with a ball that the Giants hit in, I believe it was left field. And it probably should have been a home run. The fan interference, they called it a ground rule double. Okay. It kind of helped the Diamondbacks in that game last night. But I don't think that makes it right that a fan tries to interfere in this. Right, that's not the fan's role. And okay, if it's a kid that gets overzealous and reaches over the fence because they're trying to catch a ball, I get that, because we were all that kid that wanted to get that foul ball or catch a home run ball, and I completely 1,000% understand that. But when you are a grown ass man and you do this, and it is now the 4th time. Do we have that photo, Shane? Yeah, like this is now the 4th time the same guy has pulled this out in left field. There's no defense of it. I don't care if you do it, to help the Diamondbacks when an opponent's out there. I don't care what the reasoning is. You continually are violating a rule of baseball. You are interfering with the direct play of a game. I'm sorry, but if I'm the Diamondbacks, I'm banning this guy. Because I think it's ridiculous that 4 separate times he had to be removed for doing the same thing. And shout out to our guys at John Boy for finding this and giving photographic evidence. But it's crazy to me. 2022, 2023, 2024, and 2025 now, this guy's pulled the same stunt. You are not part of the game. You should not be getting name recognition for it. I don't understand why you'd be appearing anywhere and getting name recognition for it. You should be banned from the ballpark. You're violating a rule. And there is nothing good about that or defensible about that. And this isn't one of those dumb Major League Baseball rules, right? This isn't a guy that got thrown out for bringing too big of a sign into the ballpark or something dumb like that. I'm sorry, but you are violating the game in play. I don't care if you're a season ticket holder. That does not give you a right to interrupt play because you can't keep your hands over behind the giant yellow line that's painted there. It's a simple rule. Respect it. I don't get that. And the other thing that caught my attention last night, actually Russell Smith saying it was his 5th time that he's done it. So, hey, 5 strikes and you're out. Is that the way it works? I think I would have thrown him out after the 2nd time. I would have banned him, but give him his money back, like BS Murray says, and say, on your way. I don't see it. But the other thing that came up last night on my feed while I was scrolling around, leaks of the book 2s. All right. There is an interesting look here. I've heard that the bottom half of these shoes aren't accurate. The mesh, it'll be there. I don't like these. There was a second leak though that looked a little bit more official, that we have some images of. These are a little bit better, right? I think that I don't like the colorway, but these are a little bit better for me. I'm not a sneakerhead, at least I wasn't, but the book 1s are the most comfortable pair of shoes I have ever worn. And yeah, I'm not going out and hooping in them because at my age, I'd probably break a hip or do some serious damage to myself, but they are the most comfortable sneakers. I hate sneakers and I hate socks. I think socks are the prison of the toes, and I think shoes are the prison of the feet. I'm a flip-flop guy, but I wear these all the time now, right? And I think they look great with anything. I'm not sure that the book 2s really hit that. I have to see different colorways, but I'm not a big fan of these. Shane, they have a New Balance feel, so you might like them.
I like the idea of the mesh because the old school like Asics style is coming back. Chrome on shoes, like that's all coming back, and I love it. I don't know how I feel about the second ones. I mean, the first ones, I agree. I don't really love the bottom, and I'm glad that's not real. But I don't know. I didn't really love the book 1 leaks when they first came out. They looked a little too like Vans combined with Air Force Ones to me, and I'm not a big fan of Air Force Ones, surprisingly. But man, did I love them when they came out. So I'm just gonna wait, be patient, hold my reservations. But the mesh, like, what I don't like is when we're on our 17th iteration of the Kevin Durant's, and there are either very minimal changes or they don't look anything like the other shoe.
You just said a name we've banned from the program.
No, we haven't.
I'm gonna need $5.
Nope.
No,
it's not happening.
All right. Yeah,
but like just changing something small, like turning the what's the word I'm looking for? The texture completely different, like making it mesh. I love it.
Yeah. I need to see him in person, and then I also need to see some colorways as well. BS says, love my books, comfortable AF. So I'm not alone in here. Max says, you got to find yourself some nice socks. Will change your life. If you have suggestions, or if any of you want to send me some socks, I'll try them, but I am anti-sock. I am about as anti-sock as you can be. Yeah, and then Bryn Tannehill, a friend from Twitter, says, roster is constructed as a 21 team, maybe. I am willing to bet you on that if you'd like. And I have a pretty bad track record of that, except for a handful of wins. Shane, I need to address it. Sean says, have you addressed the fact that Shane injured Justin Martinez? Do you want to explain
I think
that
it was because I was producing D-backs the day it happened. I don't remember, but this has been a thing.
Fine.
It's not my fault.
We'll punish Shane later for that. And happy Bobby Bonilla Day to anybody that celebrates. If you don't know, Bobby Bonilla on July 1st, in perpetuity, gets paid like $1 million from the Mets. But he's not the only one. Did you know that Bernard Gilkey, who stopped playing for the Diamondbacks in 2000, continued to get $1 million a year until 2017 when he was 51? Here's your fun fact of the day. Happy
Canada Day.
And Bernard Gilkey also in Men in Black, if you didn't know that as well. Those are random stuff for you. Happy Canada Day to all our Canadians, in particular our friend Leah, our head of content here. Shane, you are an honorary Canadian, I believe, as well. So happy Canada Day. For the mustache behind the Mac, Shane Diefenbach, you can follow him at Shane Dief on Twitter. You can follow me at Espo. You can follow the show at PHNX _sports. And remember, You may think it's a 20-win team, but you're going to be surprised. Ahoy, ahoy!
We all silly like the mayor.